So as many of you know, I spent years in LA doing stand-up and improv, and I was okay. I was okay. And let me tell you, it was really hard, and I couldn't imagine doing that all the while being a respected veterinarian, author, and downright fabulous person. I've heard nothing but amazing things, but that's exactly how Dr. Kevin Fitzgerald rolls. How are you?
How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm thrilled. I've seen you on TV. I've heard your I'm just very excited. Now, I've heard your earliest inspiration to become a vet started with a turtle. Talk to me.
When I was little, there were little dime store turtles. They just took off, and they weren't very expensive, and they didn't live very long, but they had them. And my grandmother said, she raised us, I don't want to take care of this thing. He wants to live with the other turtles in the zoo. So we lived across from the Denver Zoo, and we walked across, and she dropped him in the turtle pond. And this big head came up from underneath, a big snapping turtle, bam!
Oh, no,
and it took him. So after that, I always thought about hurt animals, and I thought maybe that's how I became a veterinarian.
For sure.
I want to help a little turtle.
Always.
But, yeah.
Good for you. Yeah, that must have been a traumatic
Oh,
moment.
man.
Snap, it's over.
Yeah.
You're not only a vet for animals, you also are a vet in the stand-up world. How did stand-up happen with the vet? Like, are you just funny to the people and you're like, I could do this?
Well, I tell people, everybody's funny now, you funny too. So we say that, but everybody's funny in their own rhythm, I think. And so I was watching a friend of mine doing stand-up. I'd go down and watch him, and it was bad, and he was getting paid, and I thought, man, I can be this bad. And so then it started. Yeah, and the Comedy Works here, we have such a good comedy community, you know.
So well.
And the people are so strong. So then, people kind of like you, and I've got to open for Kevin Nealon and go with Norm Macdonald, and then, George Lopez and people. So, yeah, you get to go out and do 50 minutes, and I set the table, and they ate the meal.
Yeah, that's right. Norm Macdonald, Kevin, these are huge, huge comics. And you're renowned for your stand-up, too. Give us a taste of some of the funniest things that have happened to you as a vet.
By keeping a daytime job, things happen that you can use. So things come in, like this woman came in, and she said, I don't want my dog to be vaccinated. He'll become autistic. And I said, yeah, I said, he's a French bulldog. How would you know?
Those Frenchies are derpy. They're a little derpy.
He's already half a moron. How would you know? So, and you can't write stuff like that. You can't write stuff that really happens.
Yeah, the material is there.
No, it's there. The one that says, what do you give a Great Dane with diarrhea? You say, plenty of room. I mean, of course. I mean, just that they write themselves.
It's amazing. That's so funny. Yeah, a lot of my material came from auditioning in LA, and it was just horrific experience after experience. Yeah, you find it where you're there. Yeah. Which is amazing. Okay.
So stuff happens.
Yes, exactly. I also heard that you were security for Elvis, The Who, Rolling Stones. Keith Richards even gave you some advice. Like, tell me about that. You're like the most interesting man in the world.
Well, if you live long enough, I'm 74, but I read it as 75-year-old level.
Bravo for you.
No, I started off working the door for Chuck Morris, and then he became partners with Barry Fay, and then they started doing tours, not just doing local acts, but doing, national tours. And I was doing security, and they said, well, go with this, and, go ahead the day ahead of the band and hire the police in that town, or hire the bouncers, and make sure you can get them into the hotel from the airport. And what a great thing. That's how I put myself through school.
Is that right?
But to be a little boy from Denver, get to, see the United States that way, and to be close to the music. I never could play an instrument. All I was a bouncer, but I think, I'd rather sing than eat. Most people would rather hear me eat. Probably,
I bet you have a beautiful voice. Okay, let's talk about your book right now.
I brought one for you.
I know, and it's signed. You're not getting a signed copy. I am. Ha ha. No, that's terribly mean. So it started with a turtle, one man's life on a blue and green planet. What do you hope your readers are getting from this? Tell me about the book, too.
Well, it started during COVID. We had 2 years where there wasn't stand-up, there weren't movies, there weren't restaurants.
Right.
So I just thought, people say, man, you got a book in you. So I grew up Irish Catholic in the 50s in a Jewish neighborhood.
I'm Jewish.
Yeah,
hey.
and so then bouncing and working for bands. That's the second part of the book. Third part is animal stories. Fourth part is stand-up stories. But the fifth part it's the conservation stuff. I've been on the board and the steering different committees for the conservation for the Denver Zoo, and the trips I've done with my radio transmitters, putting radio transmitters in polar bears or with animals in Mongolia. So, I mean, to be a little boy from Denver and get to see a polar bear up close and personal, you know.
You are the most interested. I mean,
no.
You
but
are
the book, I think, people would get a feel that, you know, there's magic all around us.
Yeah.
And our lives aren't one-dimensional. And people can do other things. You know, you can be a veterinarian and you can do, you know, commit to it. You know, we're not cut out paper things of what we are, you know.
Yeah, you show that. I mean, you demonstrate that perfectly.
And then Keith told me, like...
Yeah, what did Keith Richards say? I read this.
He said, you've been with us since 69, 72, 75, 78. What are you going to do? You can't be a bouncer when you're 50. We're not going to be doing this. You know, we're going to be like the flavor of the month. They never dreamed it.
And then he's still going.
He goes, why don't you go to school? You know, I'll write your letter. So he wrote my recommendation.
No, he did not.
It's probably on a wall someplace.
Keith Richards?
Yeah.
For the Rolling Stones? Oh my God.
So,
I honestly can't.
But they're good guys. I mean, they're so organized, and it's so, working for them is like the Marine Corps. I mean, nothing's by chance, and it's not an accident that they're still popular, you know, 60 years later. And it's a good show, you know. And I mean, you can't say my music's better than yours, but I worked for other bands. I worked for the Wu-Tang and, you know, other you know.
Isn't
the
that
prominent
insane?
Funkadelic.
And it's just insane how many things he's done. Okay, let me ask you, you're doing a family-friendly show at Comedy Works, which I love. Shout out to Mel, on Sunday, August 16th. Tell me more about that.
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock, everyone.
3 o'clock. Yeah. Well, you know, it's nice. It's you know, I do stand up, and this isn't so much stand up as much as it's stuff for families. I bring giant footprints of Colorado wildlife, and the kids have to come up and pick it out. And then I brought trivia, you know, where they, you know, ask them about Colorado animals. What's the Colorado state mammal? You know.
I know that. No, I don't. The moose? It's not the moose.
Bighorn sheep.
Bighorn sheep.
You knew it. You knew it.
I was so close.
You're right there.
So close.
You're right there. And then I show videos of what I've done, and yeah. I mean, it's fun. I think. I think there's different kinds of fun. I think, you know. I always wanted to do stand-up, and this is a different kind. This isn't like opening up for people like I do, but it's different.
I like that you're breaking the boundaries of you have to stay in one lane. Because I like to explore other
there
things.
there should be a variety show where you bring on
a whole talent.
Yeah, tap dancer.
Yeah,
you know,
I cross stitch. You know,
a 6-year-old that can play the violin. You know, I mean, you got a guy that, you know, a juggler. I think there should be variety shows.
I completely agree. If you could, this is my last question. If you could be any animal, what animal would you be?
Oh, I think a turtle.
Oh,
get to glide through the water, and you know,
the best.
and be gentle.
Little turtle.
And be gentle.
Wow, you are an amazing person. I'm so honored to meet you. I was waiting to meet you for so long, and I actually did. Coco viewers, you did too. See the ever lovable and hilarious Dr. Kevin Fitzgerald for an all-ages family show. That's not very often you get to bring the kids there. It's August 16th at the Comedy Works Landmark. He will be signing copies of the book. It Started with a Turtle as well. For tickets, information, go to comedyworks.com. It's at 3 o'clock, Sunday, August 16th. It has been an honor to meet you.
No, it's my pleasure.
It's amazing. As a stand-up, as an animal lover, amazing.